What are the top 5 mistakes I want you to avoid making if you're serious about overcoming your long-term insomnia and sleep problems in your 40s and 50s? Now, I know that you don't set out to make mistakes, especially when you're dealing with quite severe and long-term insomnia and sleep problems. But the reality of having access to so much online resources is that mistakes are being made every single day. And the reason I know this is for 2 reasons. One, when I struggled with my insomnia, I made some of these mistakes too. And number 2, talking to clients every single day in my sleep coaching practice for the last 10 years, people tell me that they are making these mistakes as well. So this is why I wanted to put together this video, is to make sure that you really know how to avoid these mistakes and what to do instead of really going down the rabbit hole of some of these general things that you might find online. Now, this is video 4 of the video series that I put together on how to overcome long-term insomnia and sleep problems in your 40s and 50s. So if you haven't watched the previous videos, my suggestion is you go back to the beginning of this video series and follow through with all the different videos. So I'll link them below for you so you can really take it one step at a time. Because making mistakes like the ones that I'm going to mention is just one part of truly putting in place what you need in order to fully overcome and say goodbye to your sleep problems. Now let's actually start with the first mistake. Now this mistake I often mention in other videos as well, if you have been following along with some of the content that I've put out. And it's very much about not self-diagnosing. Sleep problems and even sleep disorders might look the same from the outside, but it doesn't mean that they require the same approach. And so this is one of the first mistakes I really want you to avoid, especially if you have been struggling for a while. Now, usually I say the earlier you seek an assessment, the better it is, because the less complex the sleep problems or insomnia problems become. But this is especially something I would recommend if you've been struggling for 6 months to a year for sure, because by then you would have tried a lot of different things. Maybe some of the things have actually helped you some way, but you're still watching this video, which means that you have not fully overcome the challenges that you have. But just like I said, over time, sleep problems and insomnia struggles can become more complex. So it's really better to seek support early on because you can avoid struggling for longer. It's really that simple. The second mistake I see people make, and this is one of the ones that I made as well, is that you actually keep trying things, but you're not measuring results. So when I struggled with my insomnia, and this is very common, something I hear from clients as well, they keep trying things, sometimes for 1 night, sometimes for 2 nights, sometimes they put in place for longer, but they keep trying and trying and trying different things. But the reality of sleep problems is that they're way more practical than just this mysterious picture of sleep. When you put in place the appropriate things and you measure the results, you're gonna know whether or not whatever you have put in place is actually working. It's not about trying to find the perfect thing. It's about doing the things that will actually make a difference in a practical way. And the reason you would want to measure it is because this isn't about you wanting a 5% improvement. You don't just want to feel a little better. You really want to truly say goodbye to the more complex or even longer term struggles that you have. So you want to put in place the more accurate and appropriate things to your situation so that you can have a longer term solution, not just a shorter term solution that might not even work every single day. So putting in place one thing at a time and measuring across a 7 to 10 day period or even 14-day period is really going to give you the best chance of figuring out whether or not that thing you've put in place is working for you. And the other reason I really strongly suggest measuring and not chopping and changing too quickly is that if something isn't proving to make a significant enough difference, then most likely it is because it's not applicable to the sleep problems or the complexity of the sleep problems that you have. And I'll talk about this in a little bit with another mistake that I'll mention. Then the third thing that I see is that you might already either get on with your sleep problems or you've given up on finding a long-lasting solution. Now, the longer you struggle, the more things you have experimented with, and often that leads to losing hope that anything will work for you. And this is so common in my practice. I hear this from clients, and it's really heartbreaking because the reality of sleep problems that are even more complex is that it's completely possible to overcome them, especially when we're talking about more behavioral type sleep problems or insomnia struggles that have been around for a longer period of time. If there's nothing medically wrong with you, that means that it's going to be something that you can influence through practical ways. But giving up or getting on with it is really not going to give you that best chance to solve it properly for the rest of your life, so you never have to struggle again. Then the next thing that I see is that you're not actually listening to what your sleep is showing you. Now, what do I mean by that? You're a different type of person compared to someone else. Your sleep will be different compared to someone else's sleep. How we struggle with sleep, what kind of struggles we have, will be different depending on a lot of different things. So you might be even just struggling to fall asleep within a short period of time and then sleep through the night once you actually fallen asleep. But another person might be struggling with falling asleep easily as well as sleeping through the night. Another person might not be struggling with falling asleep, but they have very disturbed sleep at night. So see, each person will most likely have something different going on. The other thing that comes into this picture, and I talk about this often, is really the root cause of the sleep problems and insomnia struggles might be completely different based on who you are as a person. So if we take someone who is more of a thinker type and maybe they spend more time thinking about things in their head, more thought patterns, busy mind and so on, is very different to someone who's more of an emotional type person and maybe their emotions are very up and down and maybe very heightened. The two are very different situations. So again, this is where either personality traits or certain things can actually influence the way your sleep problems show up and your insomnia problems sort of evolve over time. Then the last thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is that really not actually getting support with your sleep problems, if it's been around for a longer period of time, is really going to stop you being able to either make sense of the situation and finding the appropriate things that will actually help you. And unfortunately, this is another thing that I see in my practice on a daily basis. A lot of the clients that I work with now have been struggling for years, sometimes even over a decade. And they have tried a lot of different things, but nothing really seemed to have worked for them. And once we start working together, with the knowledge that I have as a practitioner, I'm actually able to give them the appropriate things that make a difference in a shorter period of time. So again, this is why doing it by yourself is not always the best way forward, simply because you're only learning about sleep from a very general perspective. Even my YouTube videos are more general because I have never met you, so I'm not exactly sure what kind of complexities you might have. So any general articles you have or any online resources you have, or if you're in a kind of program or following through with some of those action steps, but you don't have someone to look over you, it can limit the ability to be able to make the right decisions. Again, not because you're not an intelligent person, but it's simply because someone like me who's practiced in the field knows way more about the practicality of these issues than you might know just based on your experience. So I really hope that the list of mistakes that I mentioned in this video is going to help you avoid some of them or avoid all of them completely. Depending on where you are on your journey in overcoming your long-term sleep problems and insomnia, you might have already made some of these mistakes just like I did when I struggled. But as we are looking at this bigger picture of saying goodbye to your sleep problems and really future-proofing your sleep, you want to make sure that you're not continuing to make some of these mistakes that are holding you back from really mastering and optimizing your sleep completely, so you never have to struggle again for the rest of your life. Now, if you've got any questions about some of these things that I mentioned in this video series, not just in this video, but the other things as well, then feel free to reach out. I work with clients who struggle with long-term insomnia every single day. This is what I do, and I will continue to do that because I know how difficult it can be to figure out what to do in order to sleep better. So feel free to reach out, ask a question. And if you haven't yet, hit that like button below, subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell as well so I can let you know when I post new videos. And we will continue talking about some of these things that I teach my clients as well in the coming videos. So thank you so much for watching.